I'm Gemma. I'm going to be the chair of the discussion today. And as you all know, we are going to be talking about the skills of a future lawyer. So just to briefly run you through what we're going to be doing, the first few minutes we're going to be just welcoming you all as we're doing now, and we're going to be introducing ourselves. So we're going to be introducing ourselves as individual panellists, but also the organisations that we represent. Those are the Legal Lineup and Kissoon Carr. We're then going to be running through our presentation. We're going to be covering various skills that future lawyers will require, like networking skills and entrepreneurship. And then we're going to leave the last sort of 25 minutes just to go over your questions. And if you've got any questions, either now or throughout the presentation, feel free to drop them in the chat box. Okay, so we're going to start. So as I mentioned before, my name is Gemma Shohet. I am a vacation scheme candidate at Clifford Chance, Linklaters and Norton Rose Fulbright. I am a third year law with Spanish student at Leeds University. So I've just finished my year abroad and I'm going into my final year. And I'm also a co-founder of the Legal Lineup. And the Legal Lineup is an initiative aimed at supporting aspiring commercial lawyers. It's a platform that covers various different topics. So we have blogs, where we cover commercial awareness articles, insights into applying to commercial law firms. And as well as this, we also host webinars like this. And now I'm going to pass over to Rob Hanna, who is the founder and managing director of Kissoon Carr.
Thank you very much, Gemma, and welcome everyone. Thanks so much for attending this afternoon. Really good to meet you all. I've dropped my own LinkedIn into the chat, so feel free to connect. As Gemma rightly mentioned, I am the managing director and founder of Kissoon Carr. We were founded in 2016 to be more than a legal recruitment firm, hence why we're having this legal webinar today, and we're delighted to be teaming up with the Legal Lineup to hopefully give you lots of insights into what the future of lawyering will look like. Alongside Kissoon Carr, I'm also the proud host of our Legally Speaking podcast, which I think a lot of you already follow, and thanks once again for all of your help and support for that. We're actually just taking a mini break from the podcast, but season 3 will be coming out in August. We've got some amazing guests lined up, so stay tuned. So yeah, really excited to be here and looking forward to talking more.
Great. So now I'm going to pass over to our other 3 co-founders of the Legal Lineup, who are our panelists today. They're Blaise, Annie and Lean. So Blaise, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for attending, as Robert said. So I just finished my degree at the University of Leeds, a law degree, 3 years. So just finished that. And I'm a future trainee at Freshfields. Another interesting thing I've done is I was Stephen Lawrence Scholar. So if anyone has any questions about that or any sort of diversity initiatives that are out there, please do get in touch with me. And of course, I'm also one of the co-founders of the Legal Lineup. So if you have any questions about that as well, do feel free to get in touch with us.
Great, thank you, Blaise. Annie?
Perfect. So I'm Annabelle Smith, or Annie, and I'm also a graduate from the University of Leeds, and I studied the three-year LLB as well. I'm a future trainee at Allen Overy. I'm meant to be taking a gap year this year, however, COVID's kind of got in the way of those travel plans. So I'll be joining the firm in March 2022, which feels quite a way away, after starting my LPC next July. And I got my training contract through A&O first. I took the first year scheme insights, and I went down that path. So if anyone has any questions about first year schemes, I did quite a few across a few different firms. So feel free to drop them in the Q&A chat box.
Thank you, Annie. And now Lean?
Hi everyone, how are you? My name is Lean Kayali. I'm also a graduate from the University of Leeds, currently sat at my place in Saudi Arabia. It's great to be around family. I'm a future trainee at Clifford Chance and due to start my training contract in August 2021, just after I complete my LPC. I'm doing a quite unique training contract and that I'm doing the London-Dubai split training contract. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to ask us. I'm also one of the co-founders of the Legal Lineup.
Great. Yeah, so as everyone can see, we all have very different backgrounds. So if you've got any questions about our different backgrounds, feel free to drop them into the Q&A box. And now I think we're going to start with our presentation. Okay, so we're talking about the skills that future lawyers acquire. And one key skill that we wanted to discuss is entrepreneurship. So we want to talk a bit about what that actually means, why it's important for aspiring lawyers, and how aspiring lawyers can develop entrepreneurship. So Rob, if we could start with you, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. So I believe entrepreneurship is important in any career, not just necessarily to be a lawyer, because it just gives you so many skills that you'll need throughout your professional working life. But particularly in the legal sector, I think there's a number of benefits to ensuring that you actually are practicing these skills. One, it's important because it shows you're proactive and you're actually hungry and you're different. I think a lot of people are quite scared to maybe break out of their comfort zone. But as a lawyer, as you progress throughout your career, actually being able to stay hungry, be proactive and try new things is very, very, very important. So I think it's about making yourself stand out, about going above and beyond. It shows creative thinking. The legal sector is changing. I think we're now in a world where I think we all quite know, with legal technology, things happening, the career of the future lawyers is going to be very different to what it was the years gone past. Actually being a part of an entrepreneurial journey and having an entrepreneurial skill set will enable you to actually understand a lot of the problems and things that are happening much quicker and faster. And I think it also enables you to bring value. The one thing I talk a lot about when I'm mentoring people around entrepreneurship is value. And so the more that you're learning new skills, you're meeting new people, you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, you're building up your own internal capability, value and skill set, and you will only be able to pass that on to a future law firm that'll make you stand out as a very different individual. So, interpersonal skills, if you're trying to do something entrepreneurial, there's some fantastic initiatives, particularly around diversity and inclusion, from some current lawyers that I know that are trying to really disrupt the way work allocation is given within law firms. And they're trying to create a unique platform embracing AI technology, completely not related to their day job of maybe corporate or litigation, whatever they might be doing, but they're actually going above and beyond, actually working with suppliers, going out there, facing problems, having challenges, and lo and behold, they're bringing additional value that's going to benefit the legal sector, their law firm, and they've got all these other skill sets. So I think actually it's very important. It makes you stand out, shows you're proactive, and you bring additional value. There's some of the main things I think entrepreneurship can teach you, and it teaches you that life isn't straightforward. You get a lot of setbacks, you get a lot of hits along the way. A lot of people probably tuning in are trying to get training contracts at the moment, are trying to break into the legal career, just want to get a break, they just want to get some legal experience, whatever it might be. Actually practicing entrepreneurship and accepting failure as part of the process. It's the process. Failing is not failing completely. The only reason failure happens is if you give up. If you refuse to give up, failure is just all part of the process. And it's very easy for me to sit here, probably a bit further on in my career, to say that. But honestly, I still fail every day as an entrepreneur. I set up new ideas, new business initiatives. Some of them completely fail, and that I'm completely fine with that. So actually getting comfortable with accepting, practicing entrepreneurship, it isn't just a straight line. You will have some ups and downs. It's completely fine, okay? So don't put too much pressure on yourselves. And I think the other thing with entrepreneurship, it allows you to embrace innovation. I think you're speaking to a lot more people, you're getting great insights from people, you're networking with new people, you're meeting new people. All of these things are going to help your creative thinking and make you stand out and be different. So they're just some of the things I would suggest.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rob. That was really interesting, bringing in not only entrepreneurship, but also innovation and accepting failure. So those are really key skills as well. So Blaise, you've had some experience not only within the legal sector, but also within the financial sector and kind of within business. Do you think that that's helped your entrepreneurship, and why?
Yeah, it definitely has. So me, in terms of entrepreneurship, the hardest thing for me was sort of understanding what it is exactly. Because for me, I always thought it was just, you need to sort of set up a business to develop entrepreneurial skills, but that wasn't true at all. So getting these experiences in, like, for example, Goldman Sachs or Chevron, it put me in like a business environment. So then I learned how business works. I learned the different challenges that sort of all these businesses face, and I was able to use those skills like in my vacation scheme to then talk about them and talk about how the client's going to be affected so directly. So even though it didn't have like a legal angle to it, it allowed me to sort of develop that understanding of business that was so crucial, so standing out. So yeah, I definitely agree with what Rob said in terms of it helps you to stand out. And I think in terms of developing it, you can do so by, for example, attending a lot of inter days and open days are just different types of businesses. Because when I was thinking of where to apply to for my some internships, I didn't want to just do vacation schemes. I mean, of course they're great, but I wanted to improve my business understanding, and that's why I chose to do sort of those different types. So I think it's very important, and I think it's going to be very important to move forward, because as Rob mentioned, it shows that innovation, because if you understand how business works, you'll probably understand how to improve it, and so how to move forward. So I think it helps you to be an all-round lawyer, because it also makes you like a very great business advisor. And I think that's what most law firms are looking for, someone who's in touch with the law, but as well is in touch with like the business world and how it works. So yeah, I definitely think it's important, and it doesn't have to be yourself a business to develop those. There are a lot of other ways that you can do so.
Yeah, definitely. And this idea of lawyers no longer just giving legal advice in kind of in a vacuum, and actually being able to understand the wider commercial landscape within which their clients operate is so important. So Lean, I believe that you took a business course. Do you think that this helped you with your entrepreneurship?
Definitely, Gemma. So the way I look at entrepreneurship as a law graduate is that having entrepreneurship skills doesn't necessarily mean you need to go ahead and start your own venture. Obviously, if you can do that, that's great. But also doing other things like taking an entrepreneurship course. So I mainly took an entrepreneurship course at university as an elective because I wanted to improve my commercial awareness, to try and understand more about how businesses work in general. Because nowadays, being a lawyer, it's not just about, as Gemma mentioned, just advice. It's not just about the legal skills that you can bring. It's really about trying to understand your client side. And to be able to do that, you need to understand their business and the industry they operate in. So actually, another thing that really helped me develop my entrepreneurship skills is interning at different law firms, but internationally. So I've done a couple of internships in the United Kingdom, in Saudi Arabia, and in the UAE. And the combination of those really helped me better understand the needs of the clients across different jurisdictions. So by just trying and understand what clients need in a certain jurisdiction and learning more about that way you'll be able to develop your entrepreneurship skills. So I definitely encourage all aspiring lawyers to try and develop their entrepreneurship skills through different means. As Blaise mentioned, it's not just about interning at a law firm, but think of it from a broader scale. How can you really improve your business understanding?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Annabelle, is there anything you'd like to add?
I guess you can just really see entrepreneurship currently in the market with the whole COVID situation. It's so unprecedented. It's nothing that we've really seen before. And I remember one of my seminar leaders actually saying before lockdown that sort of the university might shut down and businesses might shut down to try and control the spread. And I was so confused at how the economy could just shut down and everyone could just adapt to it. And I think the legal sector on its own is so traditionally seen to be very traditional, very orthodox, really just set in its ways. And I think the COVID pandemic has really shown that that's not the case, and that lawyers can work from home, we can adapt. The whole industry can just be flipped on its head. And we're seeing a lot of partners now realizing that their sort of hourly rate is often characterized by a lot of cost and overhead costs, not necessarily the skill set that's being involved. So they can so easily reduce their costs, by maintaining their skill set. And they're providing a whole range of competitive sort of offerings at such lower prices, and it's just creating a whole new gig economy, and that in itself is just showing how lawyers can see the gap in the market. We can see what needs to be done and we can move on from it, and I think that flexibility is really admirable at this sort of time.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think also not only is the kind of law firm model changing so much, but the legal sector as a whole, like you said, is changing. There's so many different jobs in so many different areas within law now. So you've got things like legal tech is a massive growth area. And a key part of like expanding on and kind of capitalizing on the fact that the legal sector is changing so much is entrepreneurship. So so it's really interesting to hear everyone's sort of contributions on that. So I think,
could I just add, Gemma, just a couple of points on that, just
sure.
to kind of build on what we've discussed. I think I agree with what everyone said, and definitely the legal sector is changing. I'm also just going to drop into the chat. Hopefully everyone can see this. What Richard Susskind, who's one of the most advanced in terms of legal technology for the future, OBE, very, very well publicised. What he's quoted saying about tomorrow's lawyers. But what I think for entrepreneurship is it's finding a problem and solving it as fast and as effectively as you can. And lawyers, you're advising your clients, you're obviously getting a lot of questions, you're getting a lot of problems. So one thing to develop your entrepreneurial skill set is actually look at your problem solving skill set as well. They go quite hand in hand, because ultimately there's opportunity, it's spotting opportunity. So that's a good tip for developing that. The other thing that I try to do to improve my own entrepreneurial flair is I never want to be the smartest person in the room. I'm not even the smartest person on this webinar today. I'm joined by very, very, ambitious, young, hungry people who have got a lot of knowledge to share. And I honestly mean that. There'll be skills that you have that you could teach me that I may not necessarily know. So actually surrounding yourself by people that are better than you is a great way to bring out the best in you. So I think if you know of and finding mentors, so maybe legal mentors or thought leaders, people you aspire to be around, you've got to go, and we'll touch on this when we move on to networking, but they're really big parts of helping you with your entrepreneurial journey. And the other thing, again, which we'll talk about, social media and leveraging the internet and all the resources available. There's a lot smarter ways that you can be an entrepreneur nowadays than years gone by. So yeah, utilizing the resources around you as well as your network around you will help you.
Definitely. And I suppose speaking here on quite a personal note, we all sort of co-founded the legal lineup in a sense to try and like fill the gap that we saw could be felt, like you said. There are a lot of different like blogs and platforms out there that are trying to help aspiring lawyers, which is what our aim is as well. But we felt that because we all had such different backstories, we've all had different experiences at different firms, that could really add to the market and could really add value, which is something that obviously Rob spoke about before. And so I'd say that to some extent sort of coming up with those ideas, thinking of branding, thinking about how we could expand on our blog, which we did by creating social media, also our platforms. And I think sort of expanding like that was a really great way for all of us to develop our entrepreneurship skills as well. I don't know if any of you had anything to add onto that, but
I would just add, I think, getting comfortable being uncomfortable is very well used, but ultimately, as an entrepreneur or as you're trying to develop that skill set, there's going to be stuff you don't know and the stuff you need to go and figure out and learn. So, actually being okay with the fact that you might be in an uncomfortable environment, you're trying something new. So most entrepreneurship or things that you're trying to find out, you're not going to know all the answers all the time. I mean, there's things that I'm working on in the legal sector or collaborations with legal societies, whatever it may be at the moment, and I don't have all the answers, and actually making sure that I'm comfortable with that is okay. So another part of this is, entrepreneurship is about going on that journey, which I keep referencing. Just be really, really mindful of, if you can push yourself out of your comfort zone, you will grow so much more as a future lawyer.
Yeah, definitely. Right, I'm quite conscious of time, so we're actually going to move on to the next topic. And that next topic is networking. So sort of how to go about networking, how one can get comfortable with it, and how to kind of turn that one-time networking opportunity into a slightly more kind of long-term, perhaps mentoring sort of relationship. Lean, would you like to start with that one?
Of course. So with networking, once you start networking from the beginning, it can feel quite daunting, and it can continue to feel that way because you're always networking with people who are so high up in the profession. But once you start doing it, and as Rob said, start getting outside of your comfort zone, you soon try to see a few patterns. So I'd recommend you start taking baby steps. And after attending a networking event, for example, you can start by going with your friends. And then if you find that there are a couple of people you were able to connect with and you would want to maintain that relationship, then ask that person for their contact details. And then it's very important for you to follow up with them. And I think that's the key to try and really develop a relationship with a professional. So just follow up with them and drop them an email saying it was a pleasure meeting them. And then every once in a while, it's nice to say hi, send them an article that you're interested in, and just catch up in general. And at the moment with the pandemic, a lot of people have been catching up virtually, and it's been working great. So definitely get outside of your comfort zone and try and start doing that.
Great. And so Annabelle, you mentioned that you were on ANO first. I wondered if you could talk a bit about that and kind of how you networked on that and how you turned that into your training contract, and whether networking played a part in that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I knew a girl in the year above at university who was a part of ANO First. So I guess the first stage of sort of networking, although it was very casual, was to reach out to her and to see how she found it and her experiences. And then from that, I decided I would go ahead and I'll try and apply and sort of see what happened. And thankfully, I was successful with that. So there was 45 of us on ANO First. So it was quite a big cohort, and it was 50% law, non-law. And it was really nice. There were so many social events. You could really network with your peers. And I think that's just as important as networking with lawyers sometimes, because we are the lawyers of tomorrow. By building a good rapport with our age group and the peers around us and people that are like-minded with us, like us, is so crucial to them being able to build a network. So when we are lawyers and we're in the office, we can already reach out to people at different firms. So I think that was really crucial by really trying to build up a good rapport with my age group. But I think in some ways more importantly, or what sometimes feels like it's more important, is networking with lawyers. And I think the biggest piece of advice I have with that is to just be authentic. I think if you're your authentic self, that's what's employable. I think people like to think that they want to have a really polished application, everything looks perfect, but everyone generally has really good applications. I know I've read so many that are all really good, but what makes you different is realizing that actually I've had a failure. As Rob said, everyone has failures. It's not an uncommon thing, but what you really need to harness is what you learn from that failure and how you can move forward and how you can add value to yourself. Which Rob slightly touched upon before, and I think this is a really underrated skill to have, is just being yourself. I think we all need to remember that as a lawyer we're going to be working long hours, and we're going to be some days more like spending more time with our peers rather than our loved ones. So being able to get on with them and to network with them and to just be your authentic self is so important to sort of succeed in the legal sector. So I think that's a really crucial thing about networking, as well as sort of following up and all those standard things, is just being yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a really great tip. And actually, you've just taken me back. I was recently on a vacation scheme with a firm, and we had a presentation which was about developing client relationships. So you had the head of legal at a very big bank, and also a partner at the firm. And they started talking about sort of networking, how they created that long-standing relationship. And for them, it also started on their first day of law school. So it links back to what Annie was saying about how very much early on in your career, networking with your peers is actually just as valuable as networking with people that are kind of where you want to go. And now, Blaise, you were on the Stephen Lawrence scholarship with Freshfields. And obviously you're now a future trainee at the firm. So is there anything you'd like to add, either with reference to that or just generally about networking tips?
Yeah. So I'll just tell a quick story about my sort of Stephen Lawrence experience. So when I got into the assessment center, there was around 95 of us, and we knew that we were only going to take around 12. So there was that kind of energy, that competitive energy in that area. And some people did get carried away and sort of took it out on the fellow sort of scholars there. And I think that's wrong, and it sort of goes back to the point that Annie and Rob mentioned about sort of networking with your peers as well. So just because we are at the same level does not mean that you sort of forget about it and not take that as just important. So what I did then, is just be nice as well, sort of network with them in the same way that I would never work with anyone else. And when I got my feedback actually from the assessment center, that's one thing they liked. So I was one of the few people that were going and speaking to everyone in sort of nice and kind way. So, you know, that worked in my favor. So I would definitely advise on that, on if you go to events, you know, try to get to know the other people that, you know, are at the same level as you in just the same way. And another thing I would say in terms of networking, which is something that I did struggle with at the start until I realized that lawyers are just people. They're just human beings who are there to speak to you as well. So once I realized that, it was much easier for me because it just became a sort of conversation instead of, you know, a sort of work that I have to do. And one thing that I did realize is that these lawyers are, you know, are quite experienced. They will lead the conversation, you know, because there's always going to be that awkward silence every now and then. It's not a problem. They're used to that. It's just about, you know, feeling comfortable to just have a normal conversation and show an interest in what they do. And then obviously try to tell your story as well so they know about you as well. But yeah, I would just say, just remember they're just people and be nice. Just be nice. Go there, be nice, you know, be yourself, smile. And I think with practice, it does get easier. But I think it's about sort of breaking those mental blocks in your head about it. If you can go in thinking, okay, there's just people. I mean, of course, they're respectable people, but they are just human beings. Let me just go speak to them, try to tell my story, try to hear about them. I think, yeah, it does become easier as you go along.
Definitely. Rob, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, there's a few things I would add to that. So the first point about networking is you've got to be prepared to put yourself out there. So a very basic tip, if you're on this webinar, you're likely with like-minded people who are trying to find legal experience, trying to get a training contract. Maybe the panelist, maybe myself can help you. So is connecting with someone enough, or do you need to go a step further and push out of your comfort zone? Maybe with people on this webinar, you could set up a Zoom chat yourselves and start networking together and build your own community, whatever it might be. But the big tip I always say to people is work warm. Who do you know who can introduce you to someone you don't know? Right? Because that's the whole point in networking, is ultimately you want to try and build your community, build your network. So why not work with people you already know, particularly the legal lineup? You guys are a wonderful platform. You can help people, particularly get more experience, get advice, maybe introduce them to people. Use this, you know, don't just be one of those observers. You've got to go a step further to push yourself out of the comfort zone to get the results. So the more proactive you are, the more results will come back your way. The other thing I always tell people, that everyone has value. Everyone can bring someone's value to somebody else. So don't treat networking necessarily straight the way that you're going, that speaking to that person is going to get you the job, they're going to give you a job. No, treat networking as, how can I actually bring value to that person and start a discussion, start a formal relationship, build something with that person, and actually then bring value to them. So it's a two-way process, because there'll be things you know potentially about someone's profile, maybe something they've done, where you can actually create an angle to start a discussion and then network around that. The other thing, online networking is just as valuable as offline networking. The more proactive you are, I talk about LinkedIn all the time. I'm a big advocate for LinkedIn. The more you put into the platform, the more content you produce, the more engagement you do, the more online networking you're doing. There's some people I mentor that I've seen on this webinar who are doing a fantastic job at that. Keep doing it. You know, the more proactive you are, the more the results will come your way. But they're just some of the points I would make. And do not treat networking as, I didn't get the initial thing straight away. Treat it as a long-tail process, and you're continuously always networking.
Yeah, that's really great advice. I guess also from my experiences, there's two great pieces of advice I've been given regarding networking. The first one is network with, and kind of what comes into that is sort of before you attend an event with a firm, research that firm, find out what it is that you want to know about the firm, and then prepare some questions that you'd like to ask people. The second is preparing different questions for different stakeholders. What that means is the kind of things that a trainee would be best placed to answer are very different from the kinds of questions that a partner would be best to answer. So have different questions prepared for different people within either the firm you're applying to or the organization you want to work at, if maybe you don't want to go into law, and really sort of, yeah, tailor your questions according to that. The second piece of advice I've been given is, if you're messaging direct in terms of your networking, it's good to kind of create a rapport, but equally, particularly if you're networking with lawyers and partners, they're incredibly busy. And so if there's something in particular that you want to know, sort of be quite concise in the way that you express yourself, because that sort of means that you can create a more meaningful discussion and you use your time and their time better. To the next section.
Just quickly, Gemma, can I add on just
personal
one
branding
thing?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, so one thing I just wanted to add on that really helped me, so my vacation scheme was, don't be scared to go and speak to partners. It so touches on the point that Rob made about being proactive. So when I was on my vacation scheme, I took the initiative to go into every single office and, just introduce myself and, and just find like 5 minutes just to speak to them. And what I found actually is that the partners and the associates and trainees will actually take like 30 minutes of their time to have a coffee with you then, because you've taken that initiative to go and speak to them. So I think, although it is scary, I understand it's very daunting, just knock on the door and say, you have 5 minutes just so I can, so, that's why I talk about myself and that kind of thing. And it really goes a long way and definitely should not be, just undervalued. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, thanks so much, Blaise. That was really helpful. The next one is personal branding. So kind of how candidates can sell themselves to firms, how candidates can communicate that they can add value to the firm. So Rob, would you like to start with that one?
Sure. I think that, your personal brand is exactly what it says on the tin. It's personal to you, right? So that's what's going to make you stand out from the next person. I think Annie was talking about that. There's lots of good applications out there and lots of people, have lots of good skills and education, but maybe you need to think outside of the box in terms of what you can do to bring additional value as a future lawyer to the law firm. And what you need to do as part of that is make sure you're practicing what you preach. So when you are producing your personal brand, if it is a vlog, if it is a podcast you've maybe started, if it is a new initiative, a legal initiative, if it's something that can actually help the particular law firm, you spotted a problem, then if that needs to be part of your personal brand. So when you're communicating online, particularly on LinkedIn, when you're producing content, it's making you stand out as a thought leader in that particular space. I think that's a very, very important point, because at the moment, social media is very noisy, and I think you need to make yourself stand out. And by doing that is actually, I think we were talking about it before as well, as being authentic. I always talk about ABA, always be authentic. Whatever you do, make sure that you're not streaming far from who you actually are. Don't try to be someone you're not. Making mistakes is perfectly fine. No one's the finished article, but the big point is about doing things that are slightly different that are going to make you stand out. It's a very, very tough competitive landscape, the legal sector, as we all know. So you've got to be prepared to go above and beyond, put yourself out there. I challenge anyone, if they could be bold enough to kind of embrace video content on LinkedIn, you just need to look at the statistics. If you're producing decent LinkedIn video content right now, your content's going to stand out. Your personal brand is going to be elevated. I would encourage everyone to take a look at Shay Rowbottom. She's one of the pioneers of LinkedIn video and helping lawyers, particularly in terms of increasing their own personal brands. Just have a look at her, what she's doing, truly authentic, truly open, truly honest. And all of these personal brands will also help for future business development. LinkedIn particularly is a platform where you've got a number of active clients, there'll be active leads. So the more visible you are, the more you're promoting your personal brand, the more likelihood you may be able to win clients or help with client development, business development, even bring in clients in the future. So big positives in terms of actually building a personal brand. The other thing I would say is it's not who you know, it's who knows you, and that's your reputation. Right? So loads of people, I could think I know lots of people, but it's who knows me, and hopefully people respect and value my opinion. So whenever I'm building my personal brand, I'm always thinking about my reputation and am I doing it in line with my values and what's important to me. So there were just some of the things I would say, and be different. Be prepared to stand out. If you're just going to do what everyone else is doing, lo and behold, you're not going to get noticed. So you've got to be prepared to stand out and be different.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm quite conscious of time. So Annabelle, Lean or Blaise, if we could just have one of you answering about this, feel free to decide among yourselves.
I was just going to echo everything Rob said, so Blaise or Lean, you could take that if you've got anything else.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that. So I completely agree with everything Rob mentioned, and just to kind of give everyone an example, when you're applying as a candidate, you really need to reflect within yourself and think, what are some factors or some differentiating factors that I have that will really help me when working at the firm that I'm applying to. And by reflecting within yourself, you'll be better able to communicate to the firm why you'll be a great asset to the firm. So for example, as a foreign student who was applying for training contracts, I knew that I had other things to bring to the table. Just the fact that I moved to a new country, you know, at a young age to study for university, that shows that I'm adaptable. The fact that I had work experience internationally, and the way I communicated by saying that I know how clients work internationally, that also says something else to the firm. So it's all comes down to really how you sell yourself, but you have to truly know within yourself what are some of the things that makes you stand out. And the way to start that, if you're unsure, you know, what are some unique things that you might have, start asking those around you. You know, so what is something about me that you think makes me stand out? Because there are so many skills nowadays that the lawyer of the future needs, and resilience and communication skills and being empathetic. These are very important skills. And as soon as you know how important these skills are, try and develop them so you can be better at them. And then once you sell yourself to the firm, make sure that you bring these skills in so that you can truly sell yourself in a way that will really want the firm to recruit you.
Hi, Gemma. Just so we can add on one thing. I know I said I
Of course, please. That'd be great.
Yes, just quickly. One thing I would always say is tell your story. Is the advice that I was given that was, you know, just immense. And with that, it's just, if there's something that's happening in your life, you know, it could be personal, but if it has shaped the person you are today, if it's a challenge, if something, you know, that required a lot of resilience, I would say, you know, to tell them that. And it doesn't mean you have to go into great detail straight away. You could just, you know, so touch upon it, and then like in the interview stage, then you really, you know, sell yourself there. But I think so your personal story is essentially what is going to make you, you know, very different, you know, because people have so the grades, the work experience, but it's about you and what you've been through that sort of makes it different. Because I think for me is what really made me stand out, you know, so my journey and so my life really. So if it's a way that you can express that, you know, sort of networking events and when you're meeting people or even applications, yeah, I think that'll go a long way.
Yeah, I love that. That's great advice, Blaze. So now we've come to the end of our presentation. We've still got a good 20 minutes for questions. And so I'm going to make my way through those. The first question is, I believe, more relevant to Lean. It's essentially how Lean applied for work experience abroad, whether she had any logistical issues with that, such as paying for flights and board and things like that. So Lean, if you could take that one, please.
Definitely. So I think it really depends on which jurisdictions you're applying to. So obviously, because I'm from Saudi Arabia, I spend my summers here, so it was easy for me to apply here. But in terms of Dubai, for example, they offer a couple of vacation schemes, and you can definitely apply those and ask the firm as you're applying what are the logistical things. But I know a lot of international students are able to apply for vacation schemes and internationally, and there's more and more of these opportunities. You just need to kind of look for them, and especially within international opportunities, it doesn't have to be within law. You know, try and explore different opportunities. Even if you work within a business, as we mentioned, you'll be able to showcase your entrepreneurial skills, and by working internationally, this is just another factor to add in your applications.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so the next question is from Sami, and he's asked, how many applications did you submit until you were accepted by a firm due to the high competition? And there's another question by Fahad, I hope I pronounced that right, which basically saying that they've been through the application process a number of times, and they're kind of not sure what to do next. So I suppose those questions kind of come hand in hand, because they sort of touch on rejection and how to go about applying to firms and how many to apply to. So Annie or Blaze, if you wanted to start with that.
Yeah, I don't mind taking that one. So I think the most important thing to know is not how many applications you do, it's the quality of your applications. It's not a numbers game. I think you've really got to be applying for firms that you genuinely believe you'd want to work there. Every firm has such a different culture, they have different practice areas, they've got different specialities, and I think you really need to harness what you think you want. And then look for a firm that matches that, because I think that's when you've got the highest chance of success, is if you really fit with that firm. As opposed to sort of the dealing with the rejection side, it happens to all of us. I don't think I've met anyone that has got every single thing they've applied for. It's completely unheard of, and it's completely normal to be rejected. I didn't quite realise about the whole you shouldn't be applying to every first year insight scheme when I did. So I think I applied to 20 or so first year insight schemes, and I got on 4. So I mean, that's 1 in 5. It's really not about sort of how many you're applying for. It is about what you're applying for and why you think you're a fit, because they'll be able to see through your application. If you think, oh, I'll just quickly send this one in. I spend 6-7 hours sometimes on some of my applications. It's not a quick thing to do. So if you've got the time to be applying to loads, you might want to slightly question sort of what the content is. But equally, it might be completely different, and it might just be unlucky and your applications are incredible. And if that's the case, feel free to drop any of us a line or the legal lineup LinkedIn, and we're more than happy to talk through on a more sort of personal basis.
Sure. And Rob, obviously, as a professional yourself, I'm sure you've had to deal with some setbacks and some rejections, as we all have. So do you have any tips on how to deal with that and how to kind of use that to keep you moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, even now when we set up Kissoon Carr, we were an unknown legal recruitment firm in a very competitive market where law firms hadn't heard of us. So it took a lot of work to onboard those law firm clients, you know, some of which we obviously work with, some of the firms you're going to be joining. So we had to kind of separate our point, understand what value we could bring to them and bring a point of difference and showcase that to them. But every no is just a step closer to a yes. Like there's some clients that we would still love to work with, and we're still working hard to get them on board. And we've been going for 4.5 years. So it is all a journey. So I think just think about, take a step back. One point we haven't talked so much about, particularly in the applications, 100% agree around the quality, you know, commercial awareness, all of the things we've spoken about. Make sure that you've really researched. So whenever I'm trying to win a client or make a pitch or whatever it is, one of my mentors said to me, you can never be too prepared. You've got to be over prepared. When you go into the meeting room or when you're applying to a particular firm, there's no point bashing out 20 different applications that are all substandard. Have people critique, take constructive feedback, have people actually, you know, I've practice pitches to people that I respect and value their opinion, who are quite frankly better than me. You know, everyone on this panel, you know, has done successful things, so people could reach out to you. Hey, how did you do that? What should I do? What could I do differently? How could I link a good commercial awareness story to this particular firm? And, you know, what do you know about them that I don't know? So really make sure you go above and beyond in preparing. And if you get a no, constructive feedback. I always ask people, okay, I appreciate that. And you know what? Most of my no's, next time down the line, I turn them into a yes. So it's all a process, okay? So do not take a no as a step closer to a yes. That's honestly, and as cliche as it sounds, but it's the truth.
Blaise, is there anything you wanted to add on to that point?
Yeah, I just agree with everything that's been said. And, you know, I'd just like to echo again the importance of getting someone else to check your application, because I've realized that once you've seen like 5 rejections, you tend to be more so reserved in terms of getting criticism. And that's something I've seen among, you know, many applicants. But I think when you get sort of feedback and someone has gone through everything that, you know, could be wrong, it doesn't mean you have to accept everything, but they've given you a different point of view, which means you can either accept it or reject it. But I think getting that sort of different point of view is so important. And, you know, it can literally take your application from like a 5 to a 10. I think that's how important it is. So yeah, I definitely agree with everything that's been said. And, you know, rejection is part of the journey. I mean, we've all experienced it. And, you know, another thing I would mention is, you know, take care of your mental health. You know, just because you've been rejected once, it does not mean it's the end. You know, it's, as you said, it's part of the journey. Just pick yourself back up, you know, take time off if you need, like a week off if you need or something, but then, you know, you keep that energy and understand your final destination and not just, you know, this particular part. That's what I'll say.
Gemma, just would quickly add, if getting a training contract is the end goal, you've got to treat your job as that. If you want to get a job or you want to do something, you've got to go all in. You can't just put your one foot in. You've got to be really, really committed. And the other point, just touching on Blaze, mindset. You've got to believe you're going to happen. You know, you've got to believe it's going to happen. Put yourself in a positive mindset and surround yourself around positive people.
And I think also just accepting the fact that it is a process is something that really helped me. When I look back to the applications I submitted for first year schemes, like, I'm not surprised I didn't get them. And it's not to say that, like, I'm a substantially different candidate to who I was back then. I think it's just the fact that applying for firms, it's really unlikely that you're going to, you know, get accepted to everywhere, especially on your first time round. And the way to improve is to kind of look at what you've done, look at where you've gone wrong, and just to kind of slowly keep improving your writing style, making sure there's no grammar mistakes, building on your CV, building on your commercial awareness, and just kind of slowly, bit by bit, eventually getting there. And now we're actually going to move on to a topic which is actually quite different from what we've been discussing, and that is legal tech. Someone asked a question about how firms have utilised technology during the pandemic. Obviously, we're not working in law firms yet, so I suppose we could try to answer this, but Rob, this question might be slightly more relevant to you as you're in practice. So maybe you could start with this one.
Yeah, I think, look, legal tech is going to happen. You know, it's already happening. And, you know, lawyers are going to be working with machine learning is happening. That's going to be taking place. You know, AI, it is going to be part of the next generation of lawyering. And people who've, I think, have mentioned and read the book that I was referencing earlier, Richard talks a lot about that actually, you know, document review that's perhaps not been so widely liked by associates, trainees, you know, that can all be kind of moved to legal technology. That can all be snapped up so you can work on other skill sets. So law firms, what I would do, if you're particularly interested in legal technology, I would look at firms that are actually investing heavily in legal tech, because some law firms, rightly or wrongly, are not. So some will have an actual legal hub. They'll actually have a tech hub. They'll actually be investing in that particular platform. So learn about legal technology, learn about the new things coming in, learn about how the court systems will be coming more and more online. Actually immerse yourself in that. But, you know, for example, Shoesmiths is a firm that's done a great job and part of all their marketing and investment in technology to stand out in a very crowded marketplace. So really kind of research and look into in those particular areas. But yeah, we are going to be working, machine learning is just happening more and more. It's going to be lawyers complementing them and actually enabling you to go out and do more, perhaps more business development or whatever it might be. But it's going to happen because ultimately people want, whatever you say, it'll come down to costs. You know, law firms need to make a profit. So if they can deliver a solution to their clients faster, more effectively by embracing technology and remove human cost elements and put that somewhere else to better advantage the law firm, they're going to do it. So that's just one thing to look out for, but really research which firms are investing heavily in their legal tech hubs.
Great. So Annie, sorry, Lean, do you want to go first?
Yeah, if I can just add to that, some firms also already had existing technologies in place before the pandemic happened, and they're really capitalizing on that at the moment. So I know, for example, a lot of firms like Clifford Chance have apps for cybersecurity, and these apps are specifically designed for law firms' clients in case cyber attack happens. So I know Clifford Chance, for example, last year they launched their app called Cyber Assist, and it not only helps clients understand issues around cybersecurity, but it also tells them what to do should issues around cybersecurity happen. And obviously, because everything at the moment went virtual, this app obviously comes in handy at the moment for clients. So I think as applicants, when you're applying, do invest your time in just understanding what the firm is currently doing around technology and how they're truly embracing technology to, as Rob mentioned, offer more cost-effective solutions for clients without compromising quality.
Yeah, I'll just add to that quickly before I pass over to Annie. So I mentioned I was recently on a virtual vacation scheme with Clifford Chance, and we actually had a talk about their use of legal technology. And one of their Ignite trainees, which is essentially their law training contract with a tech focus, and was talking about how he's used legal tech in his work to basically deliver a solution for a client in a way that was quicker and more cost effective as well. And he basically said how this not only meant the client was really happy with the work that he'd done on that matter, but it also meant that the firm was instructed on further matters. So legal tech can actually be used to develop an even stronger relationship with the client. So now going back to what Rob was saying about how it's important to look at which firms are actually investing in legal tech, as well as Clifford Chance. I know that A&O is quite a big sort of leader in the legal tech sphere. So I wondered if maybe Annie could speak a bit about that, because I believe she's got some experience there.
Yes, absolutely. So A&O have implemented what they call A&O Fuse, where they basically, so the bottom sort of floor of their office is purely dedicated to bringing forward-thinking tech companies together alongside A&O experts, and to try and develop practical solutions to legal issues, regulatory issues, and deal-related issues. So they're the three areas that they really focus on. So they sort of, I believe it's every 6 months, but it can be extended. They bring in a new cohort of clients and companies that are trying to develop this sort of tech. So they currently have 4 companies, but their first cohort had 8 companies. And they've brought some of the first to the market. So they've brought the first fully automated cryptocurrency to be transacted in a blockchain to the market. They've done so much with it, and they're then implementing it straight into the firm. So they can always stay ahead. As soon as it's created, they implement what's needed into the firm, which is really exciting to see. And I've been down there a couple of times, whether it was on A&O First or during my interviews. We had a tour of the offices and we went back down there. And it's really incredible to see everything. It's a really forward-thinking space. It's very innovative, and it is just incredible. And I think so many firms are doing that, but not many firms have such a big hub and have put so much pressure onto, not pressure as such, but sort of so much resources into it to really develop it and to really stay at the forefront. And I think it's a really exciting area that if you can, you should all try and stay up to date and follow, not with just A&O, I know I'm a bit biased, but across the market to sort of follow everything. It's really exciting to watch, actually.
Yeah, thank you so much, Annie. So we've only got 5 minutes left of this webinar, so I think we'll try and rattle through as many questions as we can. One question was what is I'm so sorry, I can't quite. Are there any books that you've read that have really helped you with your applications, or you've just generally found inspiring? Blaze, would you like to answer that one? Yeah,
sure. So for me, the 2 that were really massive was the Commercial Law Handbook by Jay Sugar. I thought that was amazing. It went through, so not just legal stuff, but also the financial sector and so the general understanding of commercial awareness. So I thought that was great. And also another one that helped me was All You Need to Know About the City by Christopher Stokes. So that one just gives a general overview of the city, as I say, so the financial markets, the legal market, and the whole overview in a very nice and simple way. So I'm going to type them in the chat for everyone to see, but they're the 2 for me that I would say.
Brilliant. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question now. Someone has said that they've been struggling running their own business for a year, and they've been running their own business for a year, and they've struggled to show how these experiences have kind of helped their entrepreneurship. Do you have any tips for demonstrating my entrepreneurial ability and experience and showing how that will benefit the firm? Rob, I think you'd be a great person to answer that question.
Sure. I actually think self-analysis, because I believe you probably have had a lot of additional skills and value. Write down from running your own business what you knew, because ultimately you're going to know stuff that you didn't know before from running your own business. So I'm sure if you were to actually write down all the things and challenges and experiences that you've had and skill sets that you've learned from your experience of running those business, and then cross-reference them for what the future skills are that you need to be a lawyer. We talk a lot about the an O-shaped lawyer in terms of being original, opportunistic, taking ownership, being open, and all of those things. I'm sure there will be some interpersonal transferable crossover skill sets, or find a mentor that can help you realize those skills. So actually going a step further and finding someone who can help shape them to put them into your applications, or go a step further. There would be a couple of things I would suggest.
Great, thank you so much. So I'm just quickly navigating the chat because there's quite a lot of comments here. Just trying to find some questions.
Gemma, we've had a question asking how can someone develop entrepreneurship practically?
Sure. Oh yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. Do you want to answer that one, Neen?
Yeah, sure. So I did mention that as part of my law degree, I took an entrepreneurship course at university, and it did really help me understand how businesses run and how the overall decision making within a business. So I think taking an entrepreneurship course is definitely helpful. Even if you're not at university, there are plenty of online courses that are currently available. Many of them are free, so try and do that. But also, just as Blaise mentioned, try and get yourself an internship in a business. And while you're doing that internship, really try and think, how are they operating? Ask questions. If you're interning at a law firm, maybe speak with people from business development to try and really understand how does the law firm in itself operate as a business, because ultimately the firm that you'll be working at is a business, and you'd have to be able to do your work effectively, you'd have to try and understand how the firm is generating its profit and how is it running overall.
Okay, great. So I think we're actually pretty much on time there. I'm so sorry we couldn't get through all those really great questions. If you've got any more questions, feel free to head over to the legal lineup. Our details are here, so you can talk to any of us if there's anything else you'd like to know, and you could also add us all on LinkedIn. And I'd just like to say thank you so much to everyone for attending, and thank you so much to all our fantastic panelists today, Blaise, Rob, Annabelle and Lean. I think it's been a really interesting and insightful session. And I hope everyone has a great weekend.
Thanks so much, everyone. Speak to you soon.
Could I just add something before everyone starts leaving? Just conscious that there were a few questions that were not answered due to time. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to get in touch with us at the legal lineup, or get in touch with Kissoon Carr, or just individually get in touch with us on our LinkedIn. I think we've all put our links in the chat, so yeah, feel free to get in touch with us.
And if I can just add one more thing, feel free to share your experiences on this webinar on social media and include the hashtag TLLU webinar. So that's the legal lineup webinar. And thanks so much, Gemma, for hosting this webinar, and Tahana for really helping us bring it together.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.